program this morning. Whoop. Please make sure that you put your name on your what do you call that, Susie? Where your picture is.
I just call it my little Zoom thingy.
Oh, your little Zoom thingy. Good. Make sure you put your name on there, please. Oops. Let's see if I can get this to work. There you go. Okay. We respectfully acknowledge that statewide we are in the ancestral homes of the indigenous nations that have inhabited these lands since time immemorial, including the Akchin, Akamoa Odom, Apache, Colorado River, Fort Mojave, Gila River, Havasupai, Hopi, Wallapai, Navajo, Paiute, Pima, Pipash, Wet'suwet'en, Yaqui, and Yavapai peoples. Their traditional care and honoring of these lands allow us to be here today. As I said, a fabulous, fabulous program today. Our guest is Jeanne Casteen. I think you've heard of her. She is with Secular AZ, and I will tell you about Jeanne and Secular AZ when we get into the program. You will be amazed. On March 25th, please join us. Our topic is the not so good, the bad, and the ugly. How the actions of the first regular session of the 57th Arizona State Legislature will affect your life. And believe me, it is not going to be pleasant. We are going to start off this morning with comments from our chair, Linda Ambrose.
Hi
Linda.
there.
Make sure everyone can hear you.
How's everybody today? Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Well, I certainly want to say hello to all you dear ones. I see some of your faces. Good to see you again. And this new year, I missed the first one, but here I am in the second month. I hope every one of you are well and you've remembered to take care of yourselves and your family foremost during one of the most tumultuous times in our American history. For myself, after my serious neck surgery the 1st of January, I've had to spend quiet time healing and literally regenerating parts of myself. While I was able to step back a bit and contemplate, I've come to realize that regeneration is a good thing for all of us, so that our heads are on straight when so much chaos and turmoil continues to swirl around us. So as I have been seeking to maintain balance in a seemingly unbalanced world over this past month, the same first month of Trump's new presidency, it seems now the time to ask some big questions, like where are we now? And what do we do now? And how? Perhaps the best question to ask ourselves first, how did we get here? Democrats aplenty have been trying to answer that question, and some valid reasons have been suggested. First, Democrats are still not strong enough communicators. Another suggestion, Democrats try to cover too many issues in their idealism, while Republicans name but a few. Some say they won on 2 issues alone, economy and immigration. Meanwhile, others say Democrats are all over the map with the causes from climate change, abortion rights, LGBTQ rights, voting rights, police reform, to transgender rights, and so much more. It may be an umbrella of righteous causes, but it does not cause focused messaging. That argument may be true, yet I argue that Democrats have always been the party of inclusion, having empathy for so many more of our population. And I suggest that we just need to learn how to be better and stronger in our messaging. Another reason for how Democrats lost could be the fact that a majority of voters are propagandized by the likes of Murdoch's Fox channel, as well as Breitbart and Sinclair Broadcasting. Furthermore, Vice President Harris had only 3 months to prepare and lead her campaign, whereas Trump had 4 years to learn and prepare in his first presidential tenure, plus 4 more years to prepare and plot his vengeance from his Mar-a-Lago compound, getting his new team of sinister players and oligarchs, pardon me, ready to pounce. Lastly, President Biden and his team bear some responsibility in our loss when catching Democrats off guard, first by refusing to stick to his promise of being a one-term president, declaring he would run for a second term, and then later by his saddening performance in his first debate with Trump, which publicly proved to America he was no longer fit for the job. Before closing the chapter of how we got here, it must be added that Trump also won because he told many more lies than truths in his slanderous campaign, and because he was funded by billionaire oligarchs. As a side note, this felon, also known as Trump, continues to sell his office of presidency to the highest bidder, including his cabinet of secretaries. Much more could be said about how Democrats lost, but the bottom line is, let's hope we've learned needed lessons from our defeat and are moving on. I know I am, so I now repeat my first question of where are we now? We hear the word chaos a lot, which seems to be an understatement, but it may be a good place to begin. Only 1 month into his second term, Trump has eradicated more federal agencies and departments and fired more federal employees en masse than any other president in American history. He has also issued more executive orders in 1 month than any other president, some of which at least now are being challenged by federal judges. Since elected Republicans have seemingly become his obeying robots in both houses of Congress and are now the majority in both houses, it seems the only checks and balances in our 3 branches of government is the judicial. And that's held by a thread, since the ultimate power in judicial is the United States Supreme Court, with its conservative majority in favor of the most radical of them all, Trump. Speaking of which, on Trump's first day of office, he pardoned the 1,500 January 6 rioters in one full swoop, releasing every one of them from prison. He also halted all foreign aid and backed out of most treaties and pacts with our allies. Not only is he pushing the limits of executive authority to the point that he could alter the balance of our 3 branches of government, he appears to be leaving democracy behind as he forms his autocratic regime, declaring himself as king, while he boasts of possibly taking over Greenland and Canada, also renaming the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America. He continues bullying Ukraine, supposedly pushing peace by having only Russia and the US in peace talks, ignoring Ukraine's participation in such talks, while also trying to blackmail Ukraine into paying back twice the billions Biden and Congress had given as aid to defend Ukraine against Russia's invasion 3 years ago. He's demanding now that Ukraine give the US that payback with their valuable minerals. And in just 1 month's time, his speeches have alienated most all our allies while embracing the dictators around the world. Back in our country, Trump has been bolstered by 2 racist madmen, Steve Miller and Elon Musk, with populist Steve Bannon right behind them. And so far, he is following the infamous 2025 plan, which we remember he denied knowing anything about. But in my opinion, he will use that far-right plan only as long as it serves him. As Trump's tyrannical actions are stripping away our democratic safeguards and tearing apart our government. This seems to be his intention. It may be only the means to his planned end, which is an autocracy and his dictatorship, as he thirsts for more power and more money. Excuse me 1 second. I need a sip of water. Earlier, I mentioned Elon Musk, who now enjoys the title co-president with Trump. Who knows their real and deeply devious secrets? But this much has now become evident, that Trump and Musk illegally created a government agency called DOGE, supposedly standing for the Department of Government Efficiency, with no congressional oversight or transparency. Also evident that with its unelected leader, Musk, spearheading it, he gets to gut the entire government agencies at breakneck speed under the auspices of cutting the fat, supposedly saving us billions of dollars. But also evident, on the other end, the receiving end, Musk is receiving billions of our taxpayer dollars for his company's newly acquired contracts. And finally, evident that Musk and his small team of very young, inexperienced members have illegally gained access to usually private and sensitive information on every one of us American citizens. This is unheard of and outrageously unethical. So much so that there is a part of me which wonders if Trump wants Musk to be the bad guy, the scapegoat, the fall guy, just in case. So far, I've touched just the surface of the co-presidents, Trump and Musk, sinister firing squad catastrophes. That's a big lot of things to say in one little paragraph. But suffice it to say, we are in grave danger on many fronts, from the firing of the nuclear weapons staff and nuclear department to the firing of the Federal Aviation Administration employees who guard our safety in flying, and from the firing of over 3,000 newly hired firefighters in our Forest Service who would have fought the devastating fires that continue to ravage our forest towns and parts of cities, to the firing of the Veteran Affairs Agency who serve our veterans, the people who fought for our country, along with firing the USDA employees who oversaw our food supply and its safety, while also shuttering the USAID, our national international aid to the needy throughout the world, and shutting the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which protected us as consumers. In summary, all those federal agencies and more were created by Congress to protect all American citizens. So some federal judges are holding up some of these slashings, calling them illegal overstepping of Congress. Time will tell if the judicial system can stop the crash and burn of all our systems of order and withhold the checks and balances created by our forefathers, the writers of our Constitution. I'd like to leave you with a more positive message, with possible answers to my last question, what do we do now? And it is this: we, the citizens, also have power, and just might fall on us whether we be Democrats, independents, or moderate Republicans. We have the power to vote, to protest, to communicate and unite with others, to write letters and make calls to Republican senators and members of Congress that they step up and count for democracy, reminding them that was their sworn duty in taking their oath of office. And maybe while we're at it, we could also write a letter to Minority Leader Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, demanding that he show strength, new strength in his speeches and talks, and quit sounding so defeatist with his repeated meek phrase, and I quote, "Democrats have no leverage. We have no leverage," end quote. I agree, or excuse me, that's a wrong word. I argue. I argue that yes, we do, because we are American citizens and we have the power to make changes. Furthermore, there are still races to be won by Democrats even before the 2026 elections, and we should be supporting them now. It is time our voices be heard. Frankly, I was surprised when the outspoken Democrat James Carville recently suggested that we sit out because he believes Trump's regime as it is now will implode within a month. He may be right, but playing possum doesn't sound like the strongest strategy to me. So many of us have worked our whole lifetimes for decency, compassion, equanimity, and opportunities for all. And if that's what woke means, then I'm proud to be woke. And I like to be called woke. I'm keeping it, and I'm moving forward with the strongest, most positive energy I can possess. Before I leave, I also just wanted to share with you very quickly, and I tried to copy and it didn't work, but there is a movement going on that some of you might be interested in called the People's Union, USA.com. You can look this up because starting in February the 28th, there is an economic blackout tour, as they call it, where we can show big businesses and corporations, and perhaps others as well, that we have power in what we buy as consumers, that we have the power in our economy. So this could be a real strong message if we continue to spread the word to your friends and your neighbors and family members. And on these special days, just try not to buy. It's called the Economic Blackout Tour, if you look that up, and it's starting on February 28th with the economic boycott and blackout. Just I get it, if you can online, I did, and I couldn't copy it out, as I said. So I think this is enough information, hopefully, for you all to pursue it. I certainly am, and I'm letting all my friends on my emails know. This is across the country. The Economic Blackout Tour, showing that the people are united. And that is starting February 28th and going on into March 7th through 14th, March 21 through 28. Then they have specifics to boycott. I will just tell you in March 7th to the 14th, Amazon boycott. It's going to be hard for a lot of us because many of us do buy from Amazon, but just if you can, that 7th through the 14th of March, boycott Amazon. And I could go on, but we don't have time. So just get that if you can. And if any of you can't find it, just give me a call. All right. Thank you so much for listening, and take good care of yourselves. See you in a month. Let's go.
Thank you, Linda. We talk a lot on Blue Tuesday about armchair activism. There are marches you can go to, there are things that you can do, and one of the easiest and most effective is through the civic engagement beyond voting. It is wonderful. You can do it from your armchair, and you get all the information that you need from cebv.us. That's Civic Engagement Beyond Voting.us. That's the website. And if you go there every Saturday or Sunday, there is a newsletter, and it tells you about all the bills that are going to our state legislature and what you can do to have your voice strong against unfortunately, the majority of those bills, because they're the ones that our state legislature continues to want to pass to have guns on campuses, K through 12. They want to fund with your dollars health clinics where there is no mention of uh, abortion to the young mothers who go there. That is not an option that's even presented. Um, Anything that has DEI, any courses they want to discontinue funding, state funding for universities, for colleges, if they have that. It's absolutely horrendous. It's taking away the things that we believe in our values. So please go to cebv.org. And what you'll learn to do in that is what we call request to speak. And if you go to cebv.us, it'll explain everything about how you can have a strong voice at the state legislature, how you do it through the just sitting at your computer. And it's just a wonderful way to impact the state legislature, excuse me. This shows you the way that you get into request to speak. And I won't tell you how to do that online right now, because they have coffee hours, they have instruction online. They will come to you personally and tell you how to get online and how to get to request to speak. So please just go to cebv.us and you will get yourself there. It will tell you about the different excuse me, about the different bills, a summary of what they are, and then you can say, yes, I support, I'm neutral, I disagree, and you can change your mind about that. And it's required that they say there are 500 people who've done a request to speak in favor of this bill. There are 200 that are against it. It's just absolutely wonderful from your armchair, from your home. And then it'll list all the people that were in favor of a bill or against the bill. This week in CEBV Weekly, it's crossover week. That means it's the last, Jude Simon, you're on this week on our program, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the week when there's crossover. So the bills that were in the House go to the Senate. The bills that were in the Senate go to the House. So it's one of the last times when you can have a strong voice against some of these crazy, crazy bills. So please make sure you are signed up. What I love about cebv.us is that if you have 5 minutes, good, you can do this. If you have 15 minutes, do this. If you have 30, or if you have an hour, those are all things that you can do to have your voice strong. I don't spend 5, 15, 30, or 60. I usually spend an evening, because I want to read the summaries of the bills, and I want to make sure that I know what I'm doing when I say, yes, I support it, or no, I do not. And believe me, your representatives know when you support something. Oh, and by the way, yes, please make sure that if your representative or senator is doing something positive about your values, please make sure that you tell them that and thank them for doing that. They don't get the thanks enough for that. So I'm just going to cover three that are in at the House this week. The first one is Senate Bill 1490. It's sponsored by one of our good House members, Leila Alston. She's a Democrat from LD5. This would gradually raise the monthly stipend for kinship foster care parents, those who are related to the child. For example, the parents cannot take care of the child. Maybe their grandparents are not able to do that. This would allow them to have increased stipends to take care of their children. Please use your right to request to speak to support that bill. HB, the House Bill 2456, it's sponsored by David Marshall. It's subject to a striker, which means that they strike everything. And please make sure when you go on RTS that you specify that you support the strike everything amendment, not the bill, but the strike everything amendment. So I've put that in highlighting. The bill has been called Christian's Law, and it's named for a 15-year-old boy who went to spend the night with a friend and never returned after being killed in an accidental shooting. The boy's father views the measure as similar to seatbelt or drunk driving laws, which have been credited with saving countless lives. He says, what you have in your possession can take a life in an instant, and there is a responsibility that goes with that. So please go to RTS and specify that you support the Strike Everything Amendment. The third one, please oppose. It's HB 2926. It's it's subject to a striker that would make it more difficult for Arizonans in need to keep their government health care benefits by raising the income threshold and requiring at least 20 hours of work per week from able-bodied workers. Work requirements for access enrollees are terrible policy. They're punitive, they fail to move people out of poverty, and they lead to low-income people losing their health coverage. So please do that. Those are the only three that that we will comment about this week. The last thing that's really egregious is a bill by David Livingston, and it is taking most of funding away from disabled students. And it sounds horrible. And the parents are obviously very upset. It will cut the funding for disability programs by 20 to 50%. The reason why he's doing this is because he's angry at Katie Hobbs for taking that action without going through the legislature. So it's a retaliatory action by Livingston. And I think the comment that it made me the angriest was the parents saying, it started under Ducey. Is it more important for Livingston to get back at Katie Hobbs than to help keep our children alive. It's just awful. So please oppose that. Using request to speak, I'm going to go through these just quickly because you know most of this. But the most important thing we're doing today, please, is Jeanne Casteen. Let me read you a little bit about her. Secular AZ is a nonpartisan, nonprofit advocacy organization that protects the constitutional separation of church and state and educates lawmakers and the public to ensure freedom of conscience for Arizonans of all faiths and of none. The current executive director of Secular AZ is Jeanne Casteen, a mother, lifelong educator, and former school board president. She has a bachelor's degree in human communication and history from the Hugh Downs School of Human Communication at ASU and a master's in education, also from ASU. Jeanne has over 11 years of experience teaching in Maricopa County's public schools, was elected to the Creighton School District in 2012, and served as its president from 2016 to 2020. She's been awarded the Arizona School Public Relations Association Award for Excellence in Advocacy and Political Contributions to Education, as well as the Arizona School Board Association's All Arizona School Board Member Award. She's the executive director of Secular AZ. If you don't know about that, you will today. And she's a phenomenal human being. And I have to say, there are well, every Friday is what is now being labeled as Rage Friday. You absolutely must listen at noon to Secular AZ's Rage. They have everything from education, science, medicine, reproductive health, immigration, LGBTQ rights, law enforcement, constitutional law, death with dignity, all of our values. And she has speakers that absolutely will get your blood boiling. It's wonderful. And did you know, I just found this out. Each time an Arizona In God We Trust license plate is sold, the DMV pays $17 to an anti-LGBTQ, anti-reproductive rights organization that has been identified as a hate group. So don't buy that license plate. All right. Secular AZ was formed in 2010 to ensure a secular state government and to educate lawmakers and the public about the importance of secular issues. They advocate on behalf of all individuals who believe that public policy free of religious preference is the best way to ensure freedom of conscience for Arizona's of all faith and of none, as is required by both the United States and Arizona state constitutions. In recent years, school boards across the county have become battlegrounds thanks to efforts by the white Christian nationalist movement to pack boards with extremists that push religious ideology, racism, bigotry, and conspiracy theories. Jeanne, it is our delight and honor to have you with us today.
Well, it is also my delight and my honor to be here today with you as well. I want to let everybody know that I have a house guest who's arriving momentarily, and there might be a bit of a ruckus because my dog. So I just want to prepare everybody for that. And I have a slideshow presentation, so I will go ahead and share my screen.
Okay, I need to get off. and I-
Okay.
There we go.
There we go. And okay, just a second. I always do so much better when other people do this for me, I swear. All right, there we go. Sharing my screen. Hopefully you can see it. Okay. I think I need to close a couple of my windows here too, my tabs, because I don't want there to be a lag here. Sorry for the delays. It won't let me close those. Okay, there we go. I'm going to close this one too. Okay, let's get to my slideshow. So some of this may be, if you've seen me present, this is one that I'm kind of working off of. So it's evolving and growing throughout 2025 as things evolve and grow as we move through the legislative session. As Janie said, we've been in existence since 2010. We are a 501c4 and a C3. However, we do not take sides and we don't do endorsements, although that's a conversation that we've been having recently to discuss the possibility of doing endorsements for candidates who, maintain a secular voting record. So here we are, 2025. All the things that were promised in Project 2025 are coming true in ways that probably most of us couldn't really imagine. The fact that we have this literal Nazi, Elon Musk, and a couple of whippersnappers basically that are running our government without any transparency, even though they came in saying we need more transparency and we need to cut the fat. Well, when our president is golfing, what, 3 to 4 days out of the week, I don't think we're really trimming the fat. And when he's showing up to Super Bowl games and inviting all of the GOP congressmen with him, that doesn't seem like a good money saving strategy to me. So as you all know, they're wreaking havoc right now in Washington, D.C. and throughout the United States, especially with federal workers whose lives have been completely turned upside down. I actually called a friend of mine. I thought he worked for the National Park Services, but he works for the California State Park Services. So thankfully, his job is fine, but he has colleagues who work in the National Park Services, and they're truly concerned about safety. I like to go river rafting, and there's also a concern for the river rafters that I know, because basically, if you got your permit to go down the Snake River or the Colorado River, good luck, because there likely won't be anybody to rescue you out if you have an emergency. And that's just anecdotal coming from friends of mine. But I'm really concerned about what's happening and what this is going to do to our economy, to our government agencies, and to our data, to our personal data. That is the thing that's really freaking me out these days. So let me say just a little bit more about what we do. As I said, we are a C3 and a C4. We focus on the issues. We do advocate and lobby at the Capitol. I act, as well as Jeanne Post, as a lobbyist on behalf of Secular AZ. So between the two of us, and really, honestly, between the two of us and CEBV and their weekly newsletter, we all kind of determine what the bills are that we need to focus on and pay attention to. We also do coalition building. So I participate in a reproductive freedom table every month where we can plan out and look at the bills, an LGBTQ coalition. So we try to stay active in all of these issues that we are focused on. Jeanne Post, as I mentioned, is our attorney, and she files, it's probably one of her favorite things to do, is to file legal complaints. Now, unfortunately, what she's experiencing these days more and more is a complete disregard for our complaints. And unless we can file lawsuits, which we can't always do unless we have a plaintiff, oftentimes those complaints just go unanswered, and there's nobody to really hold these folks accountable who are trying to indoctrinate children at their school board meetings. We also have events in person and virtual. I did put a link in the chat for our most recent, as she said, they have been nicknamed Rage Fridays. They're really our secular speaker series, but because of everything that's happening right now, it ends up getting a little bit ragey. But I will say Madiba Denny was our most recent speaker. And if you want to click on that link and save it for later so you can watch it, she was really inspiring and she gave me hope. And you know what else? She pointed out, not in a way that was trying to call people out, but it made me really consider my privilege, right? My privilege as a white woman, thinking we've never experienced anything this bad in our country before. Well, we actually have, and she talked about how if her ancestors could survive being enslaved, and if her, younger ancestors could survive Jim Crow and, protesting and bus boycotts, then we can certainly survive this, because this is not the first time that fascism has come knocking on our door. You can register. I filled this whole thing with QR codes. So you can scan it with your phone and then bookmark them and go back to them later. We also have been branching out outside of the legislature. We focus on school boards now as well. And boy, oh boy, are the school boards a bit chaotic these days. There was kind of a wave of people, mostly in 2022, who, after COVID lockdowns, masking, and restrictions, lost their minds and started showing up and even running for their local school boards. And they are trained not by grassroots training like our side tends to be, but more AstroTurf. We are talking about the Alliance Defending Freedom. We are talking about the Koch brothers and ALEC. We are talking about Turning Point USA, Heritage Foundation. These folks, for as much as I hate their message, I have to give kudos to their long game, because I've never seen such a focused long game with such a large group of people. And I have my thoughts about why these people are easy to control, but it's still impressive what they've been able to accomplish. I mentioned our school board updates. I, mostly as a form of therapy, started writing up little summaries of what has been going on at school boards, because I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what was happening at school boards. So I started a little Substack as that form of therapy, and it's taken off. We actually have, I think, 7,300 subscribers. Not as many paid as I would like, but it's a way for me to process the things that are going on, provide updates for other people, and it even added a little revenue stream to the organization, so I can't be mad about that. We also will give occasional legal updates using our Substack, some current events, and we welcome guest contributors. So if you are interested, or perhaps maybe you live somewhere where you don't feel like there's enough attention being paid. I just heard recently that in Peoria, the city council has started giving invocations. So maybe that's something that you want to pay attention to and give updates about. Or maybe you read an article and you want to relate how that, it relates to what's happening in Arizona. And I'm going to do my best here to take a look at the chat just to see. Okay, good. All right, I'm not missing anything. Good to know. I am not going to do a deep dive. Janie already did a bit of a update about what's going on this week and CEBV, and that it is crossover week. I just wanted to give some examples of what this legislature is focused on, because unfortunately, they're not focused on climate. They're not focused on housing. They're not focused on healthcare. Instead, they are focused on restricting the rights and the privacy of the citizens of Arizona. So, of course, Senator Kavanaugh has traipsed out even more anti-trans bills. Senator Hoffman, oh gosh, that guy, Senator Hoffman, he, I think, thinks about sex more than anybody. I would hate to see what his browser history is, because the man introduces a bill about sexually explicit materials every single year. He's a conspiracy theorist, part of the Freedom Caucus, and very extreme. And if any of you have ever been to the Senate Government Committee, I think that's the one that he chairs, you know that he's also a very unkind person. And we'll get to that just a little bit in a second. But you can see here, they want to give private universities public dollars. They want guns in schools. They want to ban pride flags. That was in response to Katie Hobbs' inclusive administration and putting up a pride flag for Pride Month. There is another one about protecting religious leaders, restricting abortifacients. I mean, even banning somebody's ability to change their name on their birth certificate, funding for pregnancy centers, a ban of DEI. And let's just call it what it is, folks. People who are anti-DEI are pro-segregation. They want us to go back into a segregated society. They want to erase what our speaker on Friday's ancestors have been able to accomplish over the last 150 years. They want it all to go away. They want to strip women of their right to vote. If you haven't heard of the SAVE Act, that will likely be coming to a bill in Arizona near you, because they're also just copying everything that the White House administration is doing right now. It's a lot of executive orders. There's not a lot of playing together in the sandbox at all. And it's the same thing, whether it is the White House, whether it's Congress, whether it is your legislature, all the way down to school boards. This feels like a Rage Tuesday right now, is what it feels like. Okay. I took this tool directly from Civic Engagement Beyond Voting. I recommend, again, bookmarking all of these, because they've done a great job of getting this information out to folks. This will provide you with the full roster of both the House and the Senate, including their committees and who chairs those committees. So I just wanted to have some practical tools, because we are in uncharted times and we need to maybe get out a different playbook and, you know, dust off our skills when it comes to agitating and advocacy. Okay, my daughter had been rewatching Big Love. I am obsessed with cults, period. I watch every cult documentary the second they come out. I love that kind of stuff. But I started rewatching Big Love again, and I was reminded how much Warren Peterson, who's an actual senator in Arizona, looks like Bill Henrickson, who's a fictional senator in Utah. I mean, it's uncanny. And they're both Mormons. I don't know. It's just a funny observation, and it makes me giggle every time I see it. So, all right, let's see. So what is happening at the legislature? I have this little video here. This is from last legislative session, so this is not currently happening, although I wouldn't be surprised if it did. I've heard a lot of praying and, you know, speaking in tongues. So this was from last year. Former State Senator Anthony Kern speaking in tongues. At a government building on the floor of the house that our taxpayer dollars pay for. Yeah, so that was wild. Things are a little bit strange too, though, not just at the legislature. Oh, you guys can't hear the sound? Okay, that's good to know. I apologize for that. Well, that's weird, because the last time I did this, the sound worked. So tell me again immediately if the sound works here. I apologize for my slow computer.
Agency after
Can
trying
you
to
hear this? If you can
acquire
hear it, can you give
new
me a thumbs up?
password after mine was expired, and I've been impacted by the executive order, and they are effectively banning me from travel, though they will not call it a travel ban. They stated that they would at first give me a passport that had the male identifier on it, though I have my sex legally changed to female, and 2 states and administratively with the federal government through Social Security before as well. And after claiming that they would give me the male one, I said any is fine as long as I'm able to travel. They came back and said that actually this is the first we're hearing that, and we won't be able to give you that either. We won't be able to give you any passport. We have no further information. They wouldn't tell me anything. I spoke to one person who wouldn't give me any information, which led to me speaking to a supervisor. And they towed the same line, where they will not call it an effective travel ban, though that is the impact, where my travel plans I cannot make They will not give me any passport with any name, gender, sex of any form. And that is the case of what we are dealing with right now in the United States. There is an effective travel ban. If you are trying to get a passport and you've had any sort of change with your gender, I've heard a lot of people saying things like, oh, it's fine if you just want to get a passport with your old gender, it's fine. That's not true. They will not give it to me. And when I asked for more answers, I only left the office under threat of arrest. They stated that they would arrest me if I asked any more questions. So I left peacefully, but I only left under threat of arrest. And it seems that I will not be able to travel outside of this country. Earth.
So that is an example of one person's story. There's another famous trans actress. Oh gosh, I'm not going to be able to remember her name now. And she was renewing her passport, and her gender marker had changed. Like that she couldn't, and this is a person who has a fairly successful career in Hollywood. This is the United States of America, and The Atlantic recently did a really great article talking about the rise of Hitler and how it took him about 53 days to implement his policies and to target his political rivals. And it's pretty frightening. So the first people that were targeted in Nazi Germany were political dissidents and trans people, people with disabilities, the most vulnerable members of our society and the most marginalized members of our society. This video is really great, but and you know what? I will be sharing this in a PDF format if you all would like a copy of it. So you can check out this video later, but for the sake of time, it's just a great video where Senator Catherine Miranda kind of smacked down John Kavanaugh. And I always enjoy when John Kavanaugh has egg on his face. So, I'm a big fan of that. This is probably my house guest coming right now. Sorry. Hi there, how are you? I'm in the middle of this, so you can go upstairs and it's gonna be straight ahead, the room that you're staying in, okay? Thank you so much, Blue Tuesday, I apologize. So I do believe that videos, that it should be required viewing for all citizens of Arizona to watch at least Jake Hoffman, maybe a John Kavanaugh, perhaps a Warren Peterson, Wendy Rogers, any of them. You can check out the live feed. Again, you can bookmark these. The live feed is on the left, and then I have archive meetings. So if you want to go back and peruse, you can look at the agenda directly on those videos. It shows up to the right, and you can take a look because there is absolutely no decorum whatsoever coming from most of the people, most of the leadership, the party that is in leadership, I should say. Okay. I did see also that Janie recommended CEBV, but we can also, if you would like, I try to go there every Wednesday to put in people's RTS requests. So feel free to reach out to us if you'd like to go through us. But like I said, CEBV does it too. And we will get you plugged in so that you can connect with your state senators and your representatives. We will, determine what your zip code is, because if you can possibly plug into your school board, or if we have an action alert specific to the district where you happen to live, you'll get those as well. And I've been trying to email more and more my especially school board members when they do something right and when they do something wrong, because a lot of these really great pro-public education school board members, they're just languishing on these boards where they're in a minority. So, they also need our words of encouragement. And then sometimes you've got these boards that are a little bit wonky and they don't always make the right decisions. So when they do, you definitely want to show your appreciation. This might surprise you, but there are a lot of big egos in politics. It's shocking, I know. But, even just if you can show up to a meeting, at the Capitol, at your school board, at your city council, being able to lock eyes with a real public servant who is languishing up there, can be just that kind of boost that they need. And getting those emails and registering to RTS gives us also a historical account of how the people felt about these bills, because as many of you probably know, with RTS, they will vote to approve a bill that maybe only has support from 5 lobbyists and has the opposition of 500 constituents. So it provides them with a record. It provides Governor Hobbs with the ability to say, okay, well, I'm going to veto this, right? And then obviously we'll always take your volunteer help. So let's talk a little bit about school boards. So right now, my biggest concern is with not just Peoria Unified School District, but also with their city. They have a mayor that does not have a great track record when it comes to LGBTQ people. He owns like some kind of tactical business. He put all of his weight behind not supporting the bond or override that they had going in Peoria. So that was a weird choice for somebody who says he's pro public education, but it might also have something to do with the fact that it seems like he wants to help some of his charter buddies build charter schools there. So who knows? I don't know what his motivation might be. But this board, in my opinion, has the most potential to hurt kids, families, and teachers. They've already started bringing up the possibility of changing their legal counsel. These are folks who, when you don't give them the information that they want, they then will just, they will not listen to you. They will shun your expertise and your knowledge and say, well, that's not right, and I want a second opinion until they get one. So this is a district where the woman in that picture, Heather Rooks, the current president now of that board, she is suing the district because she was reading scripture at the dais. There was a lawsuit. You may have heard about the lawsuit. The lawsuit from the judgment from a very conservative judge, said no to her case. You have no standing. And she said, this has already cost the district $216,000. Her legal bill is zero because there's a right-wing legal organization that is helping her and doing it pro bono. As a matter of fact, Andy Gould I think it was Andy Gould, right? No, I might be getting that wrong. I don't want to misspeak. Anyway, she doesn't have to pay a darn thing. The taxpayers in Peoria are paying $216,000. And so now she wants to change legal counsel. Does she want to retain the attorney that's suing the district? So we have filed a complaint saying that this is a conflict of interest and she should recuse herself. So we'll see what the AG's office says. But if you would like to help us, or if you perhaps know somebody in Peoria who, has a shared interest in this, please let us know. So at the last board meeting, also, she decided to read scripture again. She made good on that promise. And I'm telling you, folks, there were about 20 children in that room because they were celebrating the new hire for a beloved administrator at Peoria High School. So there were a lot of kids there who were so excited about this new principal. And there she is, the one who says, what about my parental rights? What about my parental consent? Just completely knocking those parents out of the way and deciding to indoctrinate the kids at that meeting, when she's the one that's saying that schools are indoctrinating students with all kinds of things that aren't real. So they also want to eliminate social workers. They're doing everything they can to eliminate social workers. And it's kind of interesting to watch their meetings. By the way, their last 2 meetings combined were over 15 hours. The first meeting was 8.5, and the next one was 7.5 hours, I think. It's the most inefficient thing I've ever seen in my career as somebody who cares deeply about public education and who focuses on school boards. So they do want to get rid of social workers, and they are twisting themselves into pretzels to make it happen. They want to, she's having a special review of DEI policies and are we in compliance with Trump's executive orders, even though the judges are saying, hold on, folks, I'm blocking this. They are going to try to executive order all of this stuff through by just reversing any policies that they don't agree with, rewriting them, and getting rid of programs that take care of kids' mental health and well-being. They are doing a mission, vision, and values revamp. And they're doing it in a vacuum without any input from the constituents that they're supposed to be serving. I've never seen a worse mission, vision, and values in my entire career. And if I was a parent, I would pull my kids out of that district so fast because I am scared of what they are going to do to the parents, families, teachers in that community, and students. Let's see. They are also trying to bring something called LifeWise. It's a Christian curriculum that would allow for Christian ideologies to be taught in the school and for kids to get release time for that. So we are working on getting somebody from that organization because it's real, not from the Parents Against LifeWise, because it's really taking off in places like Ohio and Indiana. And if you click on that link, when I send this to you, if you find their organization, the map of schools where they are trying to push through this religious indoctrination is really scary, because when you see the little flags that represent each of the schools, you know, each place where somebody's trying to bring in this Christian indoctrination, it's endless. There are countless. And even here in both Peoria Unified and Deer Valley Unified, they are already putting petitions through to bring this curriculum to those schools. They want to cut ties with the Arizona School Board Association. And you know, they haven't had the best couple of years, I guess. They've been kind of consumed with some of their own scandals, but they are still best in the business and have the longest track record and provide really solid policy and legal advice. So that, in my opinion, would be a huge mistake for them to choose another one, especially if they were to choose the one that is headed up by Kelly Ward's daughter. I think her name's Katie Ward. And I think Justine Wadsack is on the board of directors of that, as well as is it Alexander Kolodin? But, you know, just the worst names of people that we could possibly imagine. So it's really important that we stay with these reputable organizations instead of allowing for these, you know, pretend physicians organizations and pretend school board associations that are really just ideological AfroTurf organizations. Let's see. You know, again, I think that I am going to, because I want to honor everybody's time here. This is you can see it at our YouTube channel. What's going on in the Peoria Unified School District is pretty rough. But thankfully there are some parents who step up and who say things and get their voices heard. Oops, we'll just skip this. There we go. Speaking of Deer Valley School Board, I'm calling this a chameleon board because this is a board where in 2022, there were two people who got elected in 2022. And it was Stephanie Simicek, who's now currently the state representative in LD2, as well as a member of this board. And the other one was Paul Carver. Paul Carver is actually a 3%er. And that is a militia organization. So when he got elected in 22, I thought, well, this guy's going to be, you know, out there. He's going to be a conspiracy theorist. They're, you know, they've got a 3-2 board now. This district is going to just be toast. But aside from a couple of votes that I disagreed with, it seems that President Carver, because he's now the president of the board, has, you know, kind of seen that the things that he was being told before the election in 2022 were lies. You know, the things about litter boxes in the bathrooms and kids dressing up as cats and, you know, the indoctrination that's happening at our schools. I truly believe that he went in thinking all those things were true. And because when you're a school board member, it's part of the job that you have to go around and actually see what's happening in classrooms. And he was like, wow, this is wonderful. Public education is amazing. Now, he did make a questionable pick when it came a nomination for the VP, because this last election cycle in 24, there were two conservatives who got on the board. One was reelected. Her name is Kim Fisher, and she is MAGA incarnate. Like she is a walking caricature of MAGA. Everything is a fight. The cruelty is the point. There's zero respect for the idea of decorum. So she got reelected, which is troubling, right? because she's not been a great example of leadership at all. And this woman, Karen Peck, also got elected. And then this lovely gentleman named Steve Botfeld. So we'll see. We'll have to see what goes on. I would say this one right here in the 2-2-1 makeup, Paul Carver would be that swing vote right there. They unfortunately were not able to pass their bond or their override, and so they are facing an $11 million deficit. And there are many cuts that are going to be coming to that district. One that they've been talking about a lot is the Mandarin immersion program. So we'll just have to wait and see. And, you know, that's happening everywhere, folks. That is just the lay of the land right now, because we've, you know, the long game, again, going back to the long game, it was Governor Fife Symington back in 1995 who, you know, opened the floodgates for charters. And then, you know, 10, 15 years later, suddenly we had vouchers, and they were supposed to be for our kids with the most special of needs, but that's not how it turned out. And despite the fact that the majority of voters in Arizona do not want the vouchers, the floodgates are open. And I'm struggling to keep my optimism. I'm a new grandmother. And seeing what school, and my grandson is in Paradise Valley Unified School District. They closed 3 schools last year. Mesa Public Schools is laying off 147 employees, some of them effective immediately. I think that was at their last board meeting or 2 board meetings ago. We have Isaac. I used to work in Isaac, actually. And Isaac is now in receivership for mismanagement of funds, which is bad no matter where it happens. It doesn't matter if it's a Title I school district or a very wealthy school district, but I think the consequences are even worse for those children who, in the Isaac district in my school, 100% of them qualified for free and reduced lunch, 100%. We've also got these scandals in Cartwright and Tolleson. Like, people get it together. You know, you all seem to have like pro public education people on your boards. Stay out of the headlines, folks. Fly under the radar. What are you doing? And even though vouchers make up 11.3% of the total education budget, only 6.3% of the students Only 6.3% of the students are getting 11.3% of the total education budget. And we've all seen the things that they're purchasing, right? Private lessons, Lego sets, snowmobiles, whatever, it's fine. And now with Shelley Boggs as the Maricopa County School Superintendent, it's going to mean even more extreme appointments. We'll be able to see soon enough, because shortly after the election, one of the board members in the Queen Creek School District had a temper tantrum and resigned from the board. I don't know. So we'll get to see very soon what her appointments look like. And I have a feeling they're not going to be great. So yeah. Oh, good. I'm so glad that my dog messed up my blinds. That was really sweet of him. I've been seeing this more and more. You know, I personally believe that we really need to step up. You know, look, when you go to France, and the French government's like, we are going to raise the retirement age, and the French people are like, no, you the hell are not. And I am going to strike, and we're going to shut down the buses, and everything's going to come to a screeching halt. And then the government's like, sorry, that was a terrible idea. We're not going to do that. I don't know what it's going to take for Americans to do something like that, but we need it more than ever. I mean, just a month ago in South Korea, that, you know, their prime minister tried to have like a preemptive coup, and the South Korean people were like, absolutely the hell not. So again, I don't know what it's going to take, but we need to start talking more about the billionaire class, and standing up anytime somebody tries to make whatever's happening about the last election or in our current events about culture wars. You know, it's far too many people take the bait, I think, you know, and wanted to demonize certain groups of people, whether it was, you know, Latino men or you know, whoever. Just stop doing that, because like, you know, or maybe we focus too much on trans issues. No, because the Democratic Party, and again, we are nonpartisan, but progressives like me are are more focused on making sure that everybody has what they need and that they're not hurting anybody else. And for me, that's kind of like a gauge of what makes a good society, right? Not stripping people of their freedoms and certainly not stealing their data and giving tax breaks to billionaires. So, who will be targeted by the oligarchy? Journalists, writers, publishers. And we're already seeing this. I think just today, I don't remember the new press secretary's name, but she said that they will decide who is allowed in the White House, like press association or journalist association, whatever it's called, correspondence association. So that's terrifying. That's a very fascist, authoritarian move to decide what media people can even see. We've already seen doctors, teachers targeted, right? Like Anthony Fauci. One of the last conversations that I had with my sister was when she said Anthony Fauci should be put in front of a firing squad. And I said, I have to go and I'm not talking to you anymore. But nonprofits like ours are going to be targeted locally in Arizona. I mean, teachers have been targeted forever. We've seen what happened, you know, during COVID. There's a very famous photograph of, you know, people screaming in the faces of healthcare workers who are on the front lines working very long shifts. But like I said, they disregard the expertise of experts. Whether you're a school administrator, a teacher, a nurse, a doctor, an epidemiologist, a lawyer, if it goes against what their, you know, orange oligarch is saying to them, then they just don't listen to it. And I know that you've all experienced this or seen it on videos or interviews that people do. And it's really frustrating, but those aren't the people we're trying to reason with anyway. Let's see. We're seeing some serious power grabs. It is dizzying, it's worrisome, it's exhausting, it's chaotic, and it seems like it's never going to end. So I want to encourage everybody here to just focus on 2 or 3 things that you can do every day, whether it's calling your congressman, whether it's calling your legislators, your school board representatives, whoever it is. But just focus on those 2 or 3 things. Unplug from social media as much as you can. I have removed Meta from my phone. I still have my Instagram and I still have my Facebook account. I'm considering shutting it all down and withdrawing all my data and all that kind of stuff, but I just haven't quite gotten there yet. I will say though, not having Meta on my phone has been fantastic. I was a huge Twitter addict too. It was a lot, you know, when you're focused on politics, you tend to go often, well, you used to Twitter to get your news because it would come out faster and you knew that it was reliable because of the blue check. Those days are long over, but now there's a really great app that has filled the void and it's called Blue Sky. It is like the old Twitter and you are, you know, you're getting up-to-date information. There are so many journalists there and many of those journalists have been laid off, downsized, or just let go from whatever legacy media outlets they were coming from because, you know, the media has been consolidated for so many years now. So these folks are now starting their own Substack page or newsletter or podcasts. So I definitely recommend Blue Sky for a source of information and even for as a sense of community, you know, because it's not the cesspool that Twitter has become. It's really, really bad. I went the other day and it was a lot of like, it was really gross. It was a lot of AOC rape fantasy and the emasculization of Michelle Obama. And I mean it and a lot, it's so there's a lot of homo erotic stuff on there. I don't know what's going on over there, but it comes across like I never really went to 4chan, but I can kind of glean what it was like. It's like a middle schooler's 4chan feed. It's really gross. And to hear Elon or to see the things that Elon is posting, just the extreme lies, not even it's just lies, full on lies. So yeah. we're already seeing decorum get worse. The representatives here in our legislature are incredibly rude. They try to suppress civic engagement. I mean, you know, even just RTS, having to go down there and go to one of those kiosks is so ableist and ageist, you know? What if I have a hard time driving, you know? Or what if I rely on public transportation? It's just another way that they want to keep our voices out of their governance. We're going to see court battles, and we are going to, like I said, perhaps for some of these school boards, see them retain some very extreme legal counsel that will just help them accelerate their move to dismantle public schools from within. Again, I already kind of talked about this. Just don't comply in advance, you know, and don't punch down. You know, our most marginalized citizens need us more than ever right now. I have a lot of friends who are active in the LGBTQ community. I have quite a few friends whose children are trans and who are getting passports in order and who are thinking about moving across the country and even out of the country. So, you know, we need to stand alongside. I mean, our own development director is an immigrant, and we needed to help him accelerate his visa process so that he didn't have to worry about, because he's a DACA recipient. So we were able to, as an organization, make the decision to help him. And we all need to stand up for anybody in our lives who need someone to lean on, especially those that are going to be targeted first. I also want to say, like I said, to uncode their language. When they say DEI, we need to start saying, so you're against diversity, equity, you're against including people. Why would you be against a diverse work? Like what's wrong with that? We really need to put their feet to the fire, because we all know that anti-DEI movements are pro-segregation movements. We know too that, you know, the word woke, they use it as a weapon. I'm hella woke. I want to be even more woke. Wake me up before you go. Let's go. I'm awake. We should all be awake. And to say that they're anti-woke means they're anti-empathy and anti-compassion and anti-knowledge, really. So, yeah, we need to continue to hold on to facts. It's kind of alarming too, the rate at which some of these government agencies are being scrubbed of information. So thankfully there are organizations out there who are trying to pull this information down and save it on websites like the Wayback Machine and stuff like that. So we have a historical record of what our government was before Elon Musk came in with a wrecking ball. That's the worst sentence I've ever said in my whole entire life. So yeah, whenever there is mis or disinformation, or they use those like kind of whistle words, right? Their words, we need to correct them, and we should never affirm their narratives. So, and we also have a few ways for folks to get involved. These are ways that I recommend everybody get involved. I also spend Sunday evenings going over the CEBV newsletter, and then the Sunday happy hours afterwards. I don't always have as much success being able to make it to that, but whenever I can, I do. And I know that their attendance is like growing. I think they said they had like 100 or 150 at their last meeting. Let's see. There's this right here, and I think that I'm sorry, I can't remember. I think it was maybe Linda who was talking about the different efforts and actions that are happening. The March 4th thing, there's going to be this happening at noon. I may be there, actually. I'm not sure. They asked me to speak, but I also have so many other events coming up this week and this month and next month. Like, so I'm very, very busy. But I hope to be there on, I think it's Tuesday, March 4th. Yeah. Let's see. And then another thing, you know, I know a lot of you are probably involved with the Democratic Party. But I also really enjoy the indivisible groups that have been cropping up everywhere. And I love the Indivisible National Organization. They have some really great toolkits, and they have a lot of Zoom calls as well, and trainings and things like that that you can get involved with. If you're interested in going beyond and doing a little bit more, getting involved with our organization, We are looking for board members right now because we've had a couple of people who have stepped down for various reasons, and it is 6 meetings a year. We hope that you would join one of the committees and, take a role in a committee. There would be a give or get financial commitment that's not too much. And if you've got a talent, we're definitely going to put you on one of our committees. So if you're interested in joining our board, that we need some help there. We also need legal help. I've mentioned Diane Post a few times here, and she is, when I say our legal counsel, that is our legal counsel. And we really would love to have more people on the committee. We are getting complaints faster than we ever have. In a normal year, we get around 30. This year, we're looking at the possibility of getting up to 90. Last year, I want to say it was over 70. So that just gives you an idea that these people really are just going to try to push the envelope as much as they possibly can. So if you know somebody or you know a student who would make a great legal intern, we're also going to be introducing an undergrad internship in the summer. So that's another option. And then we have our own events happening. I just did the Coronado Street or home tour. I did the Willow home tour the weekend before that. I've got Melrose this weekend, so the Melrose Street Fair is happening. We've got the Tucson Festival of Books, which is one of my all-time favorite events. I love it. We've got the Rainbows event, which is another Pride event. Bisbee Pride is happening in June, and other things. I'm going to be going up to the Rim Country and speaking up there, but we always need help with our tabling events. This one I'm really excited about. And you don't have a lot of notice on this one, but next week, Seth Andrews, who is also known as the Thinking Atheist, we are going to do a private fundraiser. We're limiting it to only 50 people. It's going to be at a private home in Scottsdale with food and drinks. If you don't know who he is, go ahead and look him up. And if you do, you're definitely going to want to get your ticket for that. And then our day at the Capitol is the day after. Your ticket includes a lunch. We are going to be introduced on the floor of the House. So I would love to see some of you there as well. And then I just want to end with this. And I know I probably took way too much time. So if there are questions, I'll do my best to answer them. But Andrew Seidel, another one of my favorite atheists, and he's also a constitutional attorney. He said, Christian nationalists will not go gently into, oops, I got to move this. Give me a second. Into the obsolescence for which they are bound. This identity was born in the dark corners of their fearful minds, and they are raging against the dying of their privilege. I love that quote because, as I've said before, they are loud, but we are many. And they are screaming their heads off, but they do not represent what the majority of Americans want for our country. So we just need to stay strong, stay in this fight, and plug in wherever we can. So with that, I will take any questions that you might have.
Jeannie, this is Jeannie. Before you start taking questions, thank you so much. It's really frightening times, but you've given us things to do, ways to resist, and that's just as important as knowing how frightening this time is for us. Thank you. And our Susie Thornton has been doing a wonderful job of filling the chat with all kinds of websites and so forth that we can go to. So thank you, Susie.
Thank you, Susie. If I could just add, she just put up the economic summit that also Jean was talking about, and I had mentioned in my talk. So the dates are on the chat if you can get on that before we end our meeting. Okay, and thank you so much, Jeannie. It was wonderful.
Oh, thanks.
And a reminder that this is being recorded. So it'll be on the Blue Tuesday YouTube. And we'll let you know what the link is to that, because there was so much information today and so many places to go and do things. Thank you. just a reminder, yeah, March 6th is secular day. And, oh, went back to the beginnings. Sorry. Let me just exit that. Next month in March, we will, have several people. Diane Post is actually one of the people who's going to be, our guest, talking about the legal bills that impact the legal community and aspects of our life. And Save Our Schools will be here. So we're going to have experts, lobbyists in their field talk about the egregious bills that have come out. So join us March 25th. And Jeannie, thank you again for being our guest today. As always, you were wonderful.
Thanks again for having me. I appreciate it.